will be issued on Thursday, and I encourage local nonprofits to apply. And again, everything needs to be under the guidelines of COVID expenses, like feeding the hungry. Are we doing more senior meals? Things like that. We're also in the process of discussing how else to invest COVID dollars. You know, the framework, there are many other ideas, additional money for child care. Can we invest in COVID, you know, recreation accommodation, you know, schools, lots of other thoughts. And hopefully within the next week or two, we'll have a framework how to spend the rest of the dollars have been allocated to us. Want to remind people that the county is continuing to do testing at the Oakland County Health Department, which is on Greenfield and Catalpa. There are hours Monday and Wednesdays from 9 to 5. You don't need a doctor's prescription. It's free. You do, however, need to call our Nurse on Call hotline at 1-800-848-5533 to schedule an appointment. And another thing that Oakland County is doing is issuing back to work toolkits. And you can go onto the Oakland County website, www.oakgov.com under COVID, and be linked to places that are distributing these toolkits for small businesses. Chambers have them, and other facilities are distributing them to our small businesses. And the items in these toolkits are valued at $400. For example, one of those on-site testing thermometers that are so hard to get, we were able to get them through our Homeland Security. Those cost almost $100 for each of them. So it's really a wonderful resource. Again, this is part of the investment of the COVID CARES dollar in our community. We're doing amazing on census. I don't need to talk about that. And there also is there's more funding coming through. There's $1 million for emergency aid for veterans. So that we do have an Oakland County Veterans Department. I do encourage people to, veterans to apply for services. We also on Thursday have a public hearing for the Citizens Advisory Council of the Community Home Improvement Department. I chair that. And we did receive over $3 million for additional community development block grant dollars that we are talking about appropriating for rental assistance, mortgage assistance that would be administered through our housing counselors at the county. So that's also available if people are struggling to pay their mortgage or rent somewhere. Any questions for me? I can go on, but those are some of the highlights of what we're doing. I'm literally meeting. Usually it used to be committees 1 week, board. We're just doing meetings every week now, multiple meetings. There's so much work to do. Any questions?
Thank you. Amy Horowitz had a question. Is that correct? No. Okay. Thank you. Any questions from the commission? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do for us.
Thank you.
Mayor, we do have a representative from Andy Levin's office.
Right. Yes, I see Stephanie is here from Representative Levin's office.
Yes, thank you so much. So I did want to come in and introduce myself. My name is Stephanie Maroki. I've just recently joined Congressman Levin's office as a community outreach and constituent services rep. And so I am your community outreach point of contact for Huntington Woods. And so I wanted to come in and introduce myself and just give a little bit of an update on what Congressman Levin has been doing. He's just recently introduced the Coronavirus Containment Corps. So This would increase our public health workforce by increasing our contact tracing. We're hoping that this would employ our citizens along with disrupt the transmissions chain. He's also been advocating for smaller local governments to get more funding through the Coronavirus Community Relief Act. The first round of aid to local funding went to the larger cities, so many of the cities in our district did not get funding, and we're hoping that cities like Huntington Woods does. And I just wanted to let it be known that we're here for you. I can personally be reached at any time in my email. It's my first name dot last name, stephanie.maroki@mail.house.gov. And my cell is 586-929-2443. Again, that's 586-929-2443. You can contact our office if you have something that may not be community outreach related at 586-498-7122. But typically contacting me would be perfect, and I can direct it to any one of our staff members. Yeah, and I know Jenny had my role prior to me, and she definitely urged me to come and introduce myself. She's still with the team, but she's doing communications now, and she can also be reached as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone on the commission have a question for Stephanie? All right, seeing none, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Moving on to public participation, now is the opportunity for the public to make a comment that is not an item that is on the agenda. Seeing none, public participation is closed, and we'll move on to the regular items of business. The first item is a statement from the City Commission that I will read first, and then I'll ask for a motion following that. In the words of the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. In the wake of another act of senseless violence resulting in George Floyd's shocking death in Minneapolis, people across America are taking to the streets in justifiable protest against racial and social inequality, including persistent inequity in the administration of justice. The City of Huntington Woods stands in solidarity and empathy with people all over the world who are shocked by this tragedy. Our elected and public officials condemn all acts of racism and discrimination and actively promote justice and peace for all. We unanimously oppose excessive police force and regularly monitor and evaluate our public safety department to ensure that senseless violence and inequity do not happen here. At this time of unrest and disbelief, we want to reassure Huntington Woods residents that our public safety department achieves and maintains the highest accreditations offered to law enforcement agencies through CALEA. Huntington Woods is one of 11 public safety departments in Michigan accredited by CALEA out of 580 departments statewide. Our public safety officers are committed to being part of far-reaching solutions and embrace training on community relations and peaceful de-escalation. The death of George Floyd under these circumstances comes at a time of unprecedented change, extreme anxiety, and fear in our country. We as a city are committed to making Huntington Woods a warm and welcoming city, free of fear and turmoil. Our public and elected officials stand committed to do all that we can do to foster a safe and inclusive community. It is our moral, ethical, and sworn duty to do so. If I could have a motion to approve that statement.
Second.
Okay. Any public comment? Any comments or questions from the commission?
Mr. Mayor, I think it's obviously very important for us to be heard on this as a governmental entity. And you know, when these kinds of things happen, the same kinds of things always get said and very little gets changed. It's coming in already so much anxiety, angst, fear, discontent, name it, that it's just like a blazing fire. So I hope for the sake of everyone, we get past the damaging part and get to the constructive part of trying to, as a society, deal with this. So there's longer topics that we can discuss, but now isn't the time or place in terms of how to do that. But I strongly support the resolution.
Mr. Mayor, I strongly support this resolution as well. It's extremely, extremely important to me to ensure that everyone in the community feels safe. And over the past year, I've learned a lot from our public safety chief, Pazahowski, and the entire team. And I'm really glad to know the type of training that they have always done and continue to do. And I want our residents to know that this is a commitment from myself, from our commission and the city leadership to continue to work towards progress. This was just unfortunately another incident, tip of the iceberg, and we have to commit to continuing to do the work here to ensure a warm and welcoming community, as the resolution stated.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Jenks.
I think it's extremely critical that we widely spread what we've agreed to today. I think that we need to let people know that we are welcoming and inclusive. We also need to let people know that our public safety department, by this CALIA program, are audited externally so that the kind of behavior that is never dealt with in many public safety departments does not occur in this city. And that not only is the city public safety department serving our city, but we work cooperatively with a number of other communities at the same time as they are welcoming and inclusive.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Mr. Mayor, I'll just agree with everything else that's already been said. I have nothing additional to add.
Okay. Amy, could we ask that this statement get, I know you are planning on doing a press release, but could it be also distributed to our neighboring communities so everyone is aware of it?
Of course.
Okay, we'll take a roll call vote. Mayor Pro Tem Roselle.
Aye.
Commissioner Olsman.
Aye.
Commissioner Jenks.
Aye.
Commissioner Elder.
Aye.
Mayor Paul, aye. Motion carries. Item number 2 is an annual consideration to approve the banks, brokers, and dealers of the city deposits for the upcoming 12 months as required by the Huntington Woods investment policy. Tim, are there any changes to this list?
We did remove one bank from the list that we thought there may be some issues with their ability to perform services, but it's a bank we were not doing any business with.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that we adopt the list of banks, brokers, and dealers as presented by the city's finance director.
Support.
Any public comment? Any comments or questions from the commission? All right, we'll take a roll call vote. Mayor Pro Tem Roselle.
Aye.
Commissioner Elder, Commissioner Jenks,
Aye.
Commissioner Olsman.
Aye.
Mayor Paul, aye. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 3. An unfortunate item, budget amendments. Although we usually do have a budget amendment this time of year, this one is a little more drastic than normal. Do I want to turn it over to Tim?
Yeah, as the mayor mentioned, we are required to have our budget in balance at year end every year. So we typically bring year end budget adjustments that are the results of the activity for the year. So we do have those types of adjustments, like it's a very mild winter, so there's adjustments for salt purchases as well as equipment use in the street funds. But then there's also this year a number of adjustments due to COVID. We needed to adjust down our building permit revenue, our state share revenue, our district court revenue, as well as all the recreation programs needed to have their revenue reduced, as well as expenditure adjustments for some savings due to being closed.
Do we have a motion to approve the amendments?
So move.
Second.
Any public comment? Seeing none, any comments or questions from the commission? All right, a roll call vote. Mayor Pro Tem Rozell.
Aye.
Commissioner Jenks.
Aye.
Commissioner Elder.
Aye.
Commissioner Olsman.
Aye.
Mayor Paul, aye. Motion carries. And moving on to item number 4 on the agenda. It is the matter of consideration of the ordinance regarding chickens. We first reading last month. Final reading. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any public comment? Commissioner comments? Okay, roll call vote. Mayor Pro Tem Rozell.
Aye.
Commissioner Olsman.
Aye.
Commissioner Elder.
Aye.
Commissioner Jenks.
Aye.
Mayor Paul, aye. Motion carries. Moving on to our city manager's report.
Couple of items from our departments. From Recreation, the Summer Hometown Herald is online, and I would encourage everyone to take a look at it. Our library and recreation staff really went above the call of duty to put together new programs on the fly so that residents can and kids can have something to do this summer with virtual online programming and some really interesting events. One of the events is the virtual parade, the 4th of July parade. We're going to be featuring that on the 4th of July, but we need to get videotape of participants in the parade prior to that. You can go on our website and look at the instructions for submitting a videotape so that you can be included in that virtual parade. From the DPW, I had indicated that the road program is starting shortly. The contractor will be in to pulverize Nadine, Borgman, and York a week from today on Tuesday. So that construction is getting underway. The clerk wanted me to tell residents that anybody who's on the permanent absentee ballot list is going to get an application in the mail. They went out today. And we understand from the state that residents that are not on the permanent list are going to get applications for a ballot. We do not know at this point when those are going to be going out. I can put that information in the e-newsletter when we are aware of it. So residents should be looking for either a letter from us or from the state with an application to participate in the August and November election by absentee. And then the last item is remind everybody to wear orange on Friday for National Gun Violence Awareness Day. You recall that we made a proclamation for that event at our last meeting in May. And that's all I have for June.
Okay, are there any questions of the city manager?
Mr. Mayor, could you just provide a little bit of background on in light of the governor's executive order sort of loosening things up in the county health department's recent rescission of some of its local health orders, sort of what you're working on in terms of potential for any summer camps or the potential for opening the city pool?
Yes, the executive order did permit day camps during the summer, as long as they are in compliance with state of Michigan guidelines, and that has to do with social distancing and protocol for procedures in place in case individuals get sick while at camp. As you know, we had decided to cancel it about a month ago, so we are taking a look at whether or not that is a program that we can ramp up on the fly. I would say it's a rather large hill to get over for us to be able to do that. That involves hiring staff if they're available. It would mean that we would not be able to offer the virtual and the online programming because camp staff, of course, can't do both activities at the same time, online and in person. There are problems with what do we do on days that it rains and we can't provide the program because the children need to be outside and there is limited activities for them to do. For instance, Burton Park is closed right now by the county health order. We don't know if the pool is going to be open. But we are taking a look at what it would take to operate the program, what decisions would have to be made, and we'll be issuing a recommendation to the City Commission shortly for your consideration. The pool is equally as problematic. Although the governor did say pools could be open, she did say that we were going to have to follow the CDC guidelines and the state guidelines, and that has to do with making sure that people stay 6 feet apart from each other and the facilities are clean and disinfected, and there's a capacity issue too, but somebody has to actually do all that work. Somebody would have to make sure that people stayed 6 feet away from each other, and somebody would need to make sure that the pool is disinfected. And so, again, a number of protocols would have to go into place. We would have to figure out who would do that. There's also a concern I have with budgetary impact. If we open up the pool, it will probably cost more money than usual to operate because we'll have to bring on more staff in order to make sure that those social distancing protocols are followed. And yet we're going to have reduced attendance because the summer will be shorter as well as reduced capacity. So it probably is not going to pay for itself. So those are some of the things that we are taking into consideration. As you know, the lifting of the opening of the pool happened last night at 10 o'clock. So we've spent today looking at all the pros and cons of keeping it open or keeping it closed.
Well, I appreciate that update. One of the criticisms of government is, oh, it's not nimble and it's not hard to change directions quickly, but there's a lot that goes into these decisions. And, we made a decision based on a health order May 28th that all of a sudden June 1st, was rescinded. So, there's now all of these decisions that have to be made. It's not as easy as flipping a switch and saying pool's open or, summer camp is open, because ultimately, while we'd like to offer these programs, we have a responsibility to make sure they're offered in a safe environment for those who participate. So I appreciate that you're working on it, and please keep us updated as we move through the coming days here, because ultimately we'll need a decision as to whether or not to walk it back or keep going in the direction we're going.
Of course.
Any other questions for the city manager? Commissioner Jenks? We cannot hear you, Commissioner Jenks.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, just remember that social distance was not changed. So that if the swim team wants to use the pool, it's not going to be 3 or 4 lanes. It might be 2 lanes. That's all that are going to be able to do in a race. Let's remember that in rainy weather, we're going to have to figure out who is allowed to go into the building. If we shut down, we're going to have to figure out the transportation on programs. So space becomes real critical. And if, for example, people say, open the camps, but we can only offer a third of the slots, will it be fair to the rest of the city?
Okay. Any other comments or questions? With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the regular city commission meeting.
So move.
Seconded.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for attending.
Night, everybody.